Hi, welcome back to Regular Magazine. Today we're going to take a look at the Argatoria range from Spellcrow. Now they sent me two armies to have a look at. One was the Vaendrel Barbarians and the Arocs. Each of these boxes is basically a starter army, and then they also sent me a couple of blisters for both of those armies. So let's crack them open and have a quick look. So, all of this has been sent to me by Spellcrow. It's basically two 10mm armies, and we're going to have a look through the two armies. So we'll start with the Arocs first. Move those to one side, let me move that box to one side. So what they sent me was the starter box and then two blisters. One is the heroes, we see here, and the other one is the sanctified. But we'll start off by looking at the core box. Now I'll flip it over the back. It gives us some information about the Arocs. On the southern territories of Repos, as far as Broken Skull Bay, land littered with numerous cities, glare and wealth of which is stunning. Many of these belong to the hot bloods called the Arocs. So it gives us basically two paragraphs as a kind of introduction to who this army is. What this box contains is a 600 points for Spellcrow's own rule set, the Argatoria, which is mass fantasy combat rules for playing with 10mm, this scale of 10mm. So in each of these boxes you get, for each army, you will get 600 points worth. So what do we get in this box? Let's take this off. From the cover, we can see we can get several units, as well as heroes, warlord characters as well. So, for anyone that's more familiar with Warhammer Fantasy, the closest army within Games Workshop's Warhammer Fantasy would be Slan Lizardmen. They're not quite the same, but that will be your closest to the Arocs. If you're wanting to sort of quickly work out who and what the Arocs are, that would be your closest match if you're more familiar with Warhammer Fantasy Battles. So, as you can see, we get a pile of Ziploc bags full of resin miniatures. So, let's break these open and have a quick look under the camera. Oops. So let's remove those bases out of the way. So these are obviously our spear troops, our sort of bog standard infantry for Arocs. Quite easy to clip off. I don't really see a lot of flash on these. Nice little sort of, I would say, reptile style creatures, more frog like. Here's the second row. See, these could be used if you didn't want to use Spellcrow's own rule set and you wanted to use another set of rules. These will easily work with several rule sets, such as Warmaster. The Warmaster community have kept the Warmaster rules up to date, There's a Warmaster 2.0 available to download. Other rules which you might want to play are Fantastic Battles. One of those has come off, so we see another set of spearmen. Let's put those to there. We don't need to take too much notice of those, we've seen them already. Get these ones out. These are very frog-like, large scale monsters. I would say they're very similar to a bullfrog, and hence you can see the blowing up of the chest to make themselves look a bit more formidable and larger, which is what toads, sort of frogs, bullfrogs and stuff like that would do in real life. So these are quite nice. I mean, all of these Spellcrow miniatures are nicely sculpted and cast. Very minimal bits of flash on there to be removed. I can't see much in the way of mould lines either, but overall they're looking quite nice, these. And for 10mm, you're getting a lot of detail. I mean, I've never painted anything that's smaller than 15, so I'm pleasantly surprised by the scale of this scale, of the detail on this scale. Having seen these now, I'm definitely going to play Fantasy Mass Combat in this scale. I don't think I'll bother with 28mm. Not when the detail on the models at this level, at this size, are really quite detailed and quite nice. I mean, as we notice, we've got some flash on these, on the spearheads, but that won't take much to just quick clip off. Good pair of clippers. A little bit of flashing down the bottom, but that won't take much to remove. I mean, overall these are really nice. My intention is to paint them with speed paints and contrasts, and I think these will work quite well with contrasts and speed paints. So what else have we got here? We've got more of those ones. Got more of these. This is, I'm going to assume, like heavy infantry. More of those guys. Some more of those. And we have some character stuff, I think. Wow, these Ziploc bags have sealed really well. So yeah, I mean, overall, I'm quite impressed. They're quite nice models. Quite nice miniatures. So yeah, you get 600 points in a box, starter box, and then you can add other blisters to them. So these are the heroes they sent me. Now they come with this style of base. I'm not going to use these bases. I'm going to use the flat Renedra style bases, because for this scale I just think this is too high, too big. I'm not really keen on it. for this scale. So what we have a big old hero. Remember, one of those big sort of frog-like creatures. We obviously have another hero leader of those guys. A nice cloak on the back. We then have what look like mages. Obviously one guy on foot, and then this guy is obviously mounted on this creature here, which looks like some sort of large reptile creature. Let's turn them over and have a look. Some nice detailing on the back of this one. Some detailing on the seat. So that's going to be quite a nice looking model, this, I think, once he's up, built, put together, painted. So those are the heroes. The other blister they sent me was a unit called the Sanctified. I suspect this is an elite unit. I don't have the rule book yet to verify, but I would assume, being called Sanctified, these are elite of some sort. You get two rows of troops in that blister, and what's nice about them is there is actually quite a few different poses amongst there, or different miniatures. They're not all the same. They might be similar, but they're not quite the same, which is quite nice. So that's those. So that's the Arocs, and like I said, the starter box gives you 600 points, and I'm going to assume that these two blisters for each of the armies takes it up to closer to 1,000 points. Starter box will cost you about £45, which is quite a reasonably good price for getting an army for any mass combat game. Is quite reasonable in the fantasy world. I mean, there's this. When we go to historics, there's a lot more choice. So the prices for an historical army in sort of 10mm, 15mm scale tends to be a little bit cheaper on the price wise, but there's more manufacturers, so you've got more choice. So the next one is the Vaendrel. And these guys are basically barbarians. They're a faction that's built on warlike culture. So when you think sort of Conan Barbarian, that style of characters, and an army of that style of barbarian, in the world of Warhammer, it would probably be the Norse, the Norse from the Chaotic Wastes and stuff. Those tribes would be your closest match to these guys from that system. So again, this box is 600 points, and again, Spellcrow also sent me 2 blisters to go with this army, which was Heroes and the White Witches. So again, I would believe that this is probably an elite unit in the same way that Sanctified are. And so let's have a look at what we get in here. Let's move those bases to one side. And again, it's going to be a pile of baggies. Each box will get you 68 individual miniatures. So your starter box, they all come with 68 individual miniatures. They're all resin. And so value-wise, yeah, I'd say this is quite good. I mean, if you're, like I said before, if you were going into historical, you probably at this scale could purchase it to the cheaper price mark for historical of 10 mil. But then, like I said before, there are more manufacturers in making historical miniatures, which is why they tend to be more on the lower price wise. But for £45, I think you're getting a pretty good deal. So the first ones we're going to look at is these guys. Now, these look very much like ogres. All 4 different individual miniatures. Nice lot of detail on there. There's some flashing to take off. I mean, you've got a big chunky end that needs to be removed. There's some little bits need to sort of like scrape off with a sharp knife, and then obviously they'll need to be clipped off. Again, they come with this style of base, and I'm not going to use this style of base. I'm going to go with the, I said before, the Venedra flat bases. And it's more of a, no particular reason other than for this scale of miniature, for me this is too high up. I prefer a flat base. So again, we get 4 more ogres, and again there's some flashing to remove in places, but overall it's not too bad. They're quite clean. They're nicely sculpted. There's a lot of detail on there, some nice sort of character sort of features on the faces, and that's one of the things that impressed me a lot, is that at this scale you get some really nice detailed feature on those faces. I mean, I never expected that on a 10mm miniature. The next sort of monstrous scale unit we have for this army, let's get this open. Yeah, there we go, is trolls. Now, I will assume that these are like ice trolls from northern wastes, chaotic barbarians living up in the mountains, around the mountainous region. So these are probably ice trolls. Again, a nice lot of detail, some flashing to remove, but that's quite, like I said before, that's going to be quite easily to remove. Some nice detail on those. And then we get quite a few infantry, and as what you'd expect for a barbarian army, it's a mixture of swords, axes. Now, these guys are going to be quite interesting to paint with speed paints, because it's going to be a lot of flesh to paint. I mean, because there's not much clothing on these guys, so it's going to be interesting to see how well they paint up with speed paints and contrasts. So with each baggie there are two sprues, and again you get a good mixture of different poses. So you never get two exactly the same. Yep, we we have some female barbarians. I nearly said female Conans. So, again, there's some cleanup to do. But the detail is really nice. I mean, there's quite a lot of detail. I mean, those shields are quite small, and a lot of detail with the wood and stuff like that. Texturing for the wood. I mean, they're quite nice. I mean, that's going to paint up really quite nicely, even with contrasts and speed paints. Let's quick look at the second sprue. Again, we've got a mixture of poses, none of the same. Some that are similar, but you know they're not exactly the same. Which is quite nice. Gives a lot of variety in your army. And bust these up, let's have a quick look. So that's another unit of females, and I think that's the same as the unit we've just opened. And again, another unit of females. And then we have more males. So, the two blisters they sent me, as I said, were the White Witches, which are all axe wielders, all have sort of wild long hair. There's a bit more flash on these that need a bit more cleaning up, and this is going to be quite delicate. With it being resin and that's quite small and in places quite thin, you're going to have to be quite careful with those when cleaning them up. That to one side. So now we have the heroes. You get two sprues. Let's take a look at the first one, and this is basically rocks with what looks like runes carved into them. I mean, you could place those on your bases, or you could use them as objective markers. There is also, if you see this one here, I don't think it's supposed to be like something like a fox. It's certainly not a cat. It's too large to be a cat for 10mm. It could be a wolf cub. That's possible. I think I'd paint him up as a fox. That's the one sprue. And then we have our heroes. Now we obviously have two magic users, most likely sort of druid style magic users. Then we have two heroes. Now this guy's obviously your army leader. You know, the lord, the chief, or whatever you want to call him. And then this is another hero. I mean, he's on a nice big slab of rock, which gives him that little bit extra height, which makes him stand out a little bit more above all the other heroes and characters. Again, there's not much in the way of flash or anything to remove off these. They are a really nice sculpt and cast. Very nice, nicely done. Yeah, so I mean, overall I'm quite impressed with these. I never expected this amount of detail in a 10mm miniature. I mean, I'd have always avoided this scale because I thought they were never that great. But yeah, those are nice. These are really nice. I'm looking forward to painting these. Overall, I'm quite impressed. So, so that's the 10mm stuff that Spellcrow sent me, and I have to say I'm really impressed overall with both armies. I mean, the level of detail on them is really good. I was pleasantly surprised by those miniatures. I'd always assumed that 10mm scale was going to be too small for any real seriously good detail, and that the casts and sculpts wouldn't be that great. But those miniatures proved that I was completely wrong on that at that point. I really like those. They're nice sculpts, the nice casts. The detail on them is really good, especially the barbarians. I was quite pleasantly surprised by the amount of detail on the faces, and overall, it's probably a scale I'm going to continue with going forward. I'm not really been that keen on doing mass battles at 28mm. In the historical side of stuff, I've moved towards sort of, for mass battles, I'm heading towards the 15mm, 20mm scales. And I hadn't considered 10mm because, like I said previously, I didn't think they were going to be that great as a miniature. But those have proven me wrong, and I'm probably going to continue going forward with fantasy now at 10mm and 15mm. And I will probably play the Argatoria rules when I get hold of a set. Continue with Fantastic Battles. I might dip into Warmaster and a few other rule sets to play mass battles, fantasy mass battles, using these 10mm figures. So yeah. Spellcrow I've produced some really outstanding miniatures there. I'm quite surprised by the quality and detail on those miniatures. So yeah, looking forward to painting those, and then in future I'll be picking up some Spellcrow stuff going forward. Anyway, give us a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.